whatever life holds in store for me, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
Oh, I love you, Spider-Man. Oh, I just love you so much. Who's your big daddy, Deadpool? Who's your big daddy, Deadpool?
Hey, get out of there, Deadpool!
Uh-oh, gotta go. Hello, you Spidey heads, and today we are reviewing Spider-Man 2002. Now, this is going to be less of a review and more of just me pouring out why I fucking love this movie. Because this movie to me is childhood. It's straight up childhood. I grew up with this movie. I adore this movie and everything about it. And I'll get into why I love this movie in just a sec. But I want to let you know that this is the start of my Spider-Man review series. We're going to be reviewing every Spider-Man movie leading up to No Way Home. Which is, let me give you a little secret. Shh. Andrew and Toby are definitely in it. Definitely. So, just to give you a little heads up. But, yeah, so this is going to be the start of my Spider-Man review series going all the way to No Way Home. So, we're going to start here, go through the Andrew Garfield movies, the 2 Tom Holland movies, and then the Big Daddy, No Way Home. So, starting off with 2002 Spider-Man. Let's get it.
Who am I? You sure you want to know? If somebody told you I was just your average, ordinary guy, not a care in the world, somebody lied.
So, Spider-Man 2002, like I said earlier, near and dear to my heart. I love this movie. This is in my top 10 movies of all time. This is in my top 5 comic book movies of all time. Love Spider-Man 2002. So, let's get into the reasons why I love this movie. Starting off with Tobey. Love Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. To me, he is Spider-Man. I know it probably is nostalgia. It probably is the way I grew up with this movie. I love this movie. I love Tobey. So to me, he is the definitive Spider-Man in my opinion. Tom Holland is great. And Andrew Garfield, he has redeeming moments in those movies. But Tobey, I think he just embodies the character. He embodies the nerdiness, the geekiness, the very I don't know what to do type of Peter. But he's also, when you'll see in the later movies, he plays the smart Peter. He plays the scientist Peter. He plays the I am infatuated with science and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So all that stuff, I love him for that. That's why I think he's the best Spider-Man, because he does all of it. He is the smartness and the charismatic version of Peter Parker, and just, I don't know. I can go on and on and on and on about that, but just Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, I fucking love him.
Tell him to stop, please! Stop!
Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane, she's hit or miss with me. In this movie, I like her a lot. Spider-Man 2, mixed bag, don't like her at all in Spider-Man 3. So this is the only movie that she's in that I really like her in, that I think she does a great job in. So, in this movie, I like her. When we get to 2 and 3, that's a different story. But with her, I like her here. She looks great. She looks almost like Mary Jane from the comics. Of course, not exactly. But she looks almost like Mary Jane in the comics. So, I like her in this movie. I think she does a great job in this movie.
Great.
James Franco as Harry Osborn. So James Franco as Harry Osborn, I always thought, to me, this is Harry. Every time I think of Harry, whether it's in the comics, whether it's in video games, whether it's in any other movie media, I always think of James Franco as Harry Osborn. That's just me. Again, grew up with these characters, with these actors as these characters, so it's hard to really detach these actors with these characters for me. So to me, he's always going to be Harry. James Franco's always going to be Harry Osborn. Just like how Willem Dafoe's always going to be Norman Osborn. But we'll get to him. I want an entire segment dedicated to him. So right now, starting off the characters. I like Harry Osborn. I do. I like James Franco as Harry Osborn. I think he does a great job. I think he's the definitive actor for these characters. That's one thing I will give this movie, is they do awesome casting. Everybody in this movie is casted perfectly. To Uncle Ben, to Aunt May, to Dr. Connors, to Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, to just everybody. Everybody in this movie was well casted. Everybody in this movie was well deserved of the roles that they were chosen for. Everybody is exactly how they should be, and I fucking love that. So, but yeah, Harry Osborn does a great job. Love him.
The entrance is right there.
Dad, these are public school kids. I'm not showing up for the field trip and the rolls.
What, you want me to trade in my car for a Jetta just because you flunked out of every private school I ever sent you to?
It wasn't for me.
Of course it was. Don't ever be ashamed of who you are.
I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Just what happened?
Forget it.
Now, Aunt May and Uncle Ben, I'm going to put these two in the category because they're, you can't talk about Aunt May if you're not talking about Uncle Ben. I mean, come on. So, Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I love these characters. Like, to me, again, same thing with all the other ones. I'm going to keep saying this for every character. To me, these are the definitive versions of these characters. When I think of Uncle Ben or I think of Aunt May, I think of these two people specifically. Because I don't know the actor or actress's name for Aunt May and Uncle Ben, so I'm just going to keep referring to them as Aunt May and Uncle Ben. But the dude they got to play Uncle Ben, I think he did a great job. He looks like Uncle Ben. He sounds like Uncle Ben. Again, same thing. Every time I think of these characters, I think of these actors to play these characters. And again, we'll get to Spider-Man 2, but that whole speech with Aunt May, I fucking love it. I want it fucking either tattooed on me or on a poster. I love her speech. I love it so much. Just like how I love Uncle Ben's speech in this movie. With great power comes great responsibility. Such a good fucking, such a good heroic fucking moment right there for this movie. So Aunt May and Uncle Ben, can't gush about him anymore.
Just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Are you afraid that I'm gonna turn into some kind of criminal? Quit worrying about me, okay? Something's different. I'll figure it out. Stop lecturing me, please.
I don't mean to lecture and I don't mean to preach. And I know I'm not your father.
Then stop pretending to be.
I love Uncle Ben and I love Aunt May in this movie, and it saddens me when we get to the middle part of the movie, and Uncle Ben and Peter Parker are having that conversation, and they're right before he goes into the bone saw, match, and he's just trying to tell Peter I'm trying to help you, and then Peter regrets it later on when he gets to the gunshot scene. It touches my heart every time. I tear up every time because it's just the performance that guy gave for Uncle Ben. It's just so. So, now, starting off with them, I want us to talk about the reason, probably number one, why I really, really, really love this movie, and that's Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. I can't gush about this guy enough. The attitude, the charisma, the scariness, the sinisterness, the evilness, everything about this character, every fucking thing about this character is just perfect. Now, other than his costume, yeah, his costume's a little fucking cheesy, it's a little Power Ranger-y, but again, I grew up with this version, so to me, this is just perfect. Now, do I like I'll show a little picture here, the little animatronic version that they came up with, originally? Hell yeah, I do. Hell yeah, I do. But this look looks so iconic now. That's why they're even bringing it back in No Way Home, because this look, even though, yes, it's a little cheesy, it's a little Power Ranger-y, it's so cool. It's such a cool look. So, yeah, it's a little cheesy, very much off the comics, but it looks cool. It looks really cool, but I love him. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin is my favorite Spider-Man villain, is my favorite Spider-Man Rogue Gallery villain, not just this movie, but just his entire Rogue Gallery. I love Green Goblin because as a kid I watched this movie and I just adored and loved Willem Dafoe's performance. Love him dearly. And I would have to say my favorite scene with him, and every time I watch it gives me goosebumps, is the end battle where they're just beating the crap out of each other, and he's and he's put up against that wall, and he's like, MJ and I, we're gonna have a hell of a time. I love it. Love it. Or even earlier, when he's like, in spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother? Think about it, hero! Just that whole thing. I love it.
Think about it, hero!
Outside of that, the action scenes and we're gonna start with action scenes. So action scenes with the little parade. I love that little parade segment. It's so cool to, it's the build-up for me. It's the build-up. The build-up for me is so great. It builds up to the parade. And you just see this little glider coming down, And everyone's like, what's going on? Is it part of the parade? And no. He comes down and he just starts fucking shooting, exploding this and that. And then you have that awesome moment where he's like, out am I? And he throws a little pumpkin bomb and all those people turn into skeletons. It's so cool. I love it. And then later on, one of my favorite Spider-Man shots is when he's running in slow-mo and he's pulling his shirt apart, ready to become Spider-Man. It's just so... I love it. I fucking love it so much. And then and that's that little parade thing when when they're fighting and Green Goblin's up here and he's shooting and Spider-Man's running. It's such an iconic scene almost. Like you see that scene, you're like, that's Spider-Man. That's Spider-Man. So I love the parade scene. I love it. Especially afterwards when you see him and MJ swinging around for the first time and he's, and he puts her on top of that rooftop and he's like, don't worry about it, she'll just need to take the elevator. I love it. It's so cool. Just to go back a little bit, because I forgot to mention. To go back a little bit, I forgot to mention the opening when he gets bit by the spider and he's crawling and stuff. I jumped way far ahead. I was ready to get to the meat of the movie. But the opening, the little segment where he gets bit by the spider at the little radioactive, or the spider museum, science museum, whatever kind of museum, where he gets bit by the spider, and then he starts, getting visions and dreams, and he climbs up the wall, and just, starts, go web, go, Shazam, up and away web. Like, it's so cool. I love it. And then when he finally hits it, and he grabs it, which, speaking of which, Tobey Maguire in this movie, they changed his webs to organic instead of web shooters, very much off the comics, which I find funny when classic movies go off the comics, but people still love it. Like this movie, for example. Everybody loves Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but his web shooters are not web shooters. They're organic, which is very different from the comics. So I find it strange that back in 2002, nerd fans were just happy to have a good comic book movie, not really necessarily bitching about, like, ooh, organic webs. So... tangent aside, I find that funny, but yeah, when he hits it for the first time and he's ready to jump off the thing and he goes and he can't pull away, so he just bam slams right into it. I love it. And then I even love the little scene where he's doodling different costumes for the wrestling match, because he wants to impress MJ with a new car because Flash had a car, so he wants to doodle a suit so he can go fight in this wrestling match. Which again, I can quote this movie by heart. That's how much I love this movie and I know this movie. So the entire wrestling segment I can just quote off of the top of my head. What are you doing up there? Staying away from you. That's a cute outfit. Did your husband make it for you? Fucking love it. Kick your spider ass. Like, I love it. Love it so much. The whole wrestling match. And of course I loved Macho Man, Randy Savage, ooh, yeah, I love him. So to see him in one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, I think was awesome. Oh yeah, and then I love when he goes upstairs and he's about to get his money. He's like, the ad said 500. He's like, yeah, and you ended the match in 2 minutes, so you get 100. And then when that robber guy comes in, he hits him and he takes the money, and then he passes him by. He's like, stop that guy! And he's like, I missed the part where that's my problem. He repeats the line that I love. It's such a fuck you, but it's also like a very much like an iconic line. It's like, I missed the part where that's my problem. But then, again, when you watch the movie for a second time and you know that that's Uncle Ben's killer, it hits you in the heart. It's like, Peter, what are you doing? No! But, so yeah, I love that. I love it so much. And then going to Uncle Ben's death, like that whole segment of the movie, is so fucking, again, like I said earlier, hits right here in the fucking heart. When he's just sitting there holding Peter's hand and he's just like, Peter, like, and then, he's crying and stuff, and Peter feels bad because the last thing he said to him, and it hurts even worse because the last thing he ever said to Uncle Ben was, because Uncle Ben was like, I'm not trying to be your father, I'm not trying to lecture. He's like, well, stop pretending to be. And it was like, really, like a last heart, like, oh, why'd you have to say that, Peter? Come on. And so it hits right there. And then when he unholds his hand and he walks away, and then you see the very first time he puts on the suit and he's running through the alleyways, and you get those little quick shots, boom, 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 boom. You know, he's putting on the thing, and he's putting it, like, it's so cool. And then the first, not the first flight, but the first web shoot is when he's swinging, and he's going after that guy. Like, I love that. It's really cool. It gets you pumped up, because you hear Danny Elfman's score come in, and it's just him swinging and trying to stop that guy, and it's awesome. And then, and this is why I love Sam Raimi. This is why I think Sam Raimi knocked it out of the fucking park with this movie and this trilogy, because he comes from a horror background. So this dark and gritty tone he brings to Spider-Man is so cool. So to back up my example, like when when the robber dude, and he's fighting him, and he's like coming down a little bit, like he's, you know, the guy's shooting, and then Spider-Man comes down from the thing, then goes back up, and he's in the shadows, kind of like Batman almost. That would have been really cool to see Sam Raimi do a Batman trilogy. But he's kind of hiding in the shadows like Batman. He's swinging down from the ceilings and stuff, and then he finds him, and he shoves him in the glass, shoves him in another glass, and then he breaks his arm. Then he shoves him against a fucking wall of glass, and then looks him in the eyes. Looks him in the eyes to see Uncle Ben's killer, and then he just pushes him out the window. It's so cool, and it's kind of dark, because you're like, damn, Spider-Man just killed someone. Spider-Man never kills anybody. Again, I find it so funny we live in a world where if something like this would have came out now, people would be bitching, people would be rioting in the streets, you know, because I go back to Man of Steel when Superman killed, and people were just, oh my god, fucking, what is Zack Snyder doing? And then you go to this movie, and it's like, Spider-Man literally just killed someone. I know Spider-Man has done that before in the comics, but Spider-Man just killed someone. Like, he snapped that dude's arm and kicked and shoved him out a window. He just killed someone. No one, again, for how much this movie is hailed, there's a lot of stuff that they derail from the comics, and sometimes Spider-Man, that people just kind of glance over. Again, I'm not nitpicking. I love this movie. I'm not neglecting on it. I'm just pointing it out as that's kind of funny. Back in 2002, comic book fans didn't bitch about that, but here we are in 2021 where people are like, this little thing is so wrong. This movie sucks. Like, it's just, I find it so funny that back in the day we were just so happy to have a comic book movie and it be good that we didn't care if it was source material or not source material. We were just happy to have a good comic book movie. Where now we do get good comic book movies, but people just bitch about it all day and just be like, oh, this little thing, it's just not like the comics. This movie sucks. Oh my god. Like, it's just, I find it funny. But either way, got off a little tangent there for a second. So when he pushes him out the window, it's just it's dark. Every time I think about the movie, it's just dark. But after that, of course, the Green Goblin stuff at Oscorp, you know him. You know how much I sacrificed, like that whole thing. It's very cool. I mean, not really much to discuss in those segments of him becoming Green Goblin, other than the first time you see, not necessarily see Green Goblin, but you see that dude like in the thing he's trying to test out. I can't remember what he's trying to test out. I think he's trying to test out like a jet or something like that. And he's like, there's something in the sky, and you hear, and he comes in, you see an explosion, you're like, oh shit, it explodes. Like, kind of like, oh damn, and then you have that one dude in the bunker just see all this explosion happen and stuff. It's just, it's very creepy, very dark. But yeah, since I went ahead and jumped to the parade thing, I'll go ahead and skip over the parade thing. But after that, so yeah, then after the parade thing, when you have Norman and when you have Norman in the mansion, and he's like crawling, and you see the Green Goblin mask sitting on the chair, and you hear the different voices, the different split personalities. That's what I love about Green Goblin in this movie. That they don't touch on with Harry in Spider-Man 3 is the voices, is the different personalities. The Green Goblin itself is almost like an entity that lives in him, and it is kind of, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, where it's just constantly, no, I'm Green Goblin, no, I'm Norman, no, I'm Green Goblin, no, I'm Norman. So it's just, I love that. It makes for a really cool, like, especially when he grabs the paper and he's in the mirror and he's just like looking at it, and you can see Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin side still in the mirror while Norman's still looking at the paper. I love that. It's really cool. And then you even get to the one of the best. It's sad, but it's one of the best scenes when Aunt May is praying and then Goblin comes in and she's just like, finish it! Finish it! You know, it's almost like, oh, damn! And then, you know, he's like, first we attack his heart! Like, it's really cool. It's dark and sinister, and I love Green Goblin. I love it. I can't I can't hail Green Goblin and Norman and Willem Dafoe and Sam Raimi enough. I love it. And then you even get to one of the creepiest scenes, I think, still ever in Spider-Man history. It's so fucking creepy when Spider-Man is trying to save those people in that house, and he hears that girl crying out. He's like, "I'm gonna help you. Stay where you are." And then he goes to touch it, and he turns around, it's Green Goblin, and he kicks him. It's so scary, and then he like takes off the little thing. I love it. I love it. It's so just the setting of a firehouse. A setting of a firehouse, and Green Goblin standing there, and then Spider-Man, and him throwing those little I can't remember what they're called. I'm gonna call them blade bombs, but those little blade bombs at him, and he's all dodging them in slow motion and stuff. Like, it's really cool. It's awesome. I love it. To go back a little bit, I don't know if this is after or before, I can't exactly remember, but before, when he's like, "Wake up, little spider, wake up," and then, you know, let's go back, actually, to go back before that, when he storms J. Jonah Jameson, he picks him up, he's like, "Who's the photographer that takes the pictures of Spider-Man? I don't know." And then, you know, and then he comes down and he's like, "Shut up, let mom and dad talk a little bit." He's like, "Sleep," and then he falls. But I love that whole segment when he's just laying there. He's like, "Wake up, little spider, wake up." He's like, "I'm nothing like you. I'm not a murderer." He's just like, "I'm trying to help you. Like, you know, we can either take over the city together, or you can just be the hero they want you to be for now, but they'll eventually forget about you. People love seeing a hero fall, die trying." I love that whole segment when Green Goblin's trying to turn Spider-Man. Like, "Yo, if you join me, we could tear this city apart. But if you don't, then you murder me, or you get rid of me, the city will love you for a while, but they'll eventually forget about you. They'll eventually hate you because the city will move on." And I love that. It's really cool. And of course, Spider-Man neglects his offer, but still, it's really cool to see that. I mentioned too, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Like, perfect fucking casting. Like, honestly, just perfect fucking casting. And that's exactly why they brought him back, to play J. Jonah again in Far From Home, because you literally can't recast that role. That role is J.K. Simmons. 1,000%. You can't fucking, you can't do that. And then AMA goes to the hospital. And, you know, and Peter and Mary Jane are having a little moment in the hospital, you know, because Aunt May's there. And he gets a telephone call, and he goes to answer it. And it's Green Goblin being like, "Can Spider-Man come out to play?" He's like, "Where is she?" You know, and then just one of my favorite fucking, I love this. I love the ending. I love it so much. Like, I hope in No Way Home they have an ending, or at least a scene with Green Goblin better, if not slightly better than this, because I fucking love this so much. The ending of Spider-Man 1 is my favorite Spider-Man finale of all of the movies, including the one we're about to get to in Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. Love this finale, where it's Spider-Man swings up on the bridge, and Green Goblin's holding, he's like, "Let die the woman you love, or suffer the little children. We are who we choose to be. Now choose." And he drops both. And there's this amazing fucking shot. It's probably one of my favorite Spider-Man shots of all time, where you have Peter's face, and you have one side Mary Jane falling, and one side the kids falling. I love that shot. I love it so much. And then Peter swings around, grabs Mary Jane, comes around, grabs the thing, and he's kind of holding both a little bit. And then Green Goblin comes around with the spikes, and he's about to fucking, like, ram him or whatever. And he hits him a few times, and then the people, again, just to disagree with what Goblin just said earlier in the movie, the citizens, they rise up and they start throwing shit at Green Goblin. It's like, "You want to pick on me? You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Leave the guy alone. Can't you just not start a kid trying to help a couple kids?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got something for you, ass." Like, I love that. Just all throwing stuff at him. And then he lets Mary Jane go to get on top of the thing, and then he grabs the thing. He's like, "Hold on, Mary Jane!" And then he hits him, and then Goblin takes him out to this, I'm guessing, an abandoned like warehouse or an abandoned building, and he throws him in there, and he's going through all these walls, and he finally falls, and then Goblin throws a bomb, and he explodes him, and I'm telling you what, this finale is the darkest, is the most vicious, is the most brutal we will ever see the Spider-Man franchise, ever. And I honestly agree with that. I don't think, even though they keep saying in No Way Home, oh, this is going to be a dark movie, this is going to be brutal, yeah. Don't think it's going to be as brutal or dark as it was in Spider-Man 1, because you literally have Green Goblin punching the fucking shit out of Spider-Man. Like, he is no holds bars. Throws a bomb at him, punches the shit out of him, destroys his webs, and then on top of it, literally the entire time while he's beating the shit out of him, throws him up against a wall, and then he steps on his hand, he pulls out this big spike, he's just like, and now that you've really pissed me off, I'm gonna finish her nice and slow. And then, like, one more spike, MJ and I, we're gonna have a hell of a time. And he jams it in there, and Peter's just holding it like this. Then he pull, and then Peter's had enough. He just pushes him off, comes around, spin that wall, fall it on him, kicks the shit out of him a few times, and then Webb swings in, grabs him by the throat, and throws him up against the wall. And then he realizes, as he's punching him, and then he takes off the helmet, and he realizes it's Harry. And Peter Parker's stunned. He doesn't know what to do. And he's like, "Stop, Peter, stop, it's me. It's me," you know. And then he's like, it took over me from the beginning. It wasn't me. Like, he's trying to, you know, be like, "It's the other guy. You need to help me." And then as he's doing that, on his hand, he's sitting here clicking buttons, getting the glider to come up from behind Spider-Man. Again, just like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, he turned off Jekyll to turn on Hyde. And it's just, in that moment, he's like, "God speak, Spider-Man." And then the fucking thing comes in, Spider-Man jumps, he's like, "Uh-oh." And then he gets hit. And as he's dying, Peter's just standing there knowing, like, what do I tell Harry? And then as he's doing that, he's like, "Peter, don't tell Harry." And he falls. I love it. It's one of the most epic fucking battles of all time. I love it. I love it so much. And then you even have Spider-Man putting Harry back where he, or putting Norman back where he was. And then Harry comes in and he's loading a gun. He's like, "What did you do to him?" You know. So and I love how that starts up this arc that we get all the way to Spider-Man 3, where Harry just hates Spider-Man because of he thinks he killed his father. And then you get the funeral scene where, you know, Mary Jane finally tells him that she loves him, and he's like, I have enemies, and I can't. In order for us to be a thing, your life is in danger, and I can't do that. So he gives up being with the woman he loves to basically keep her safe, and I love that. And I love it so much. I do. So, Spider-Man 1. For fucking sure, is my favorite fucking Spider-Man movie of all time. I love it. It is my favorite iteration of this Spider-Man. I love it. I can't gush more and more and more and more about this movie. I love it to pieces. If I could do a 2-hour-long review on it, I fucking would. But I can just gush over this movie all fucking day. To the score. The score is fucking amazing. To the score. To the opening title sequence. Where you have Spider-Man and it's all in webs and it's told in comic book form. It's fucking love it. Love it all to death. So yeah, that is my gushing on Spider-Man 2002. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you really love this movie like me? Or are you mixed on it? I've actually really haven't heard a lot of people's opinion, or I actually really haven't heard a lot of negative or mixed opinions on Spider-Man 2002. So, you might have a different opinion than me, but I love it very much. If you love this movie, if you don't like this movie, let it be known down below. I'd love to read your comments. And as always, Spidey out.